What is going on? Welcome to today's video. My name is Brian DaCosta, head trainer at shreddedforlife.com. Here to get you shredded, keep you shredded. In today's video, we're going through a leg workout, and also I'm going to be answering a question commented on the last video. If you haven't been tuning in lately, I'm following a theme of answering a question that was commented on the prior video. So if you're watching this video and you have a specific question around fitness or otherwise, comment it and I may just answer it in the next video. This question comes from, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this name. I believe this might be a musical artist. You know, this is a complete side note, and this is a serious topic, by the way, so I'm not trying to like joke around here, but the inclusion of the letter V as like the hip thing to do with like music artists and stuff is like, I can never pronounce the name. Like, what does the V replace? What vowel? I'm utterly lost. Anyways, let's get into it. Hey, Brian, how can someone stop using food as a comfort mechanism and stop binge eating after stressful situations or events? Training has always been something that is fun to me, but overeating has kept me from achieving the physique I've always wanted. Hope you can shed some light on this. Thanks for making dope videos. Man, I first want to acknowledge you for commenting this. I believe you're a man. I can see with the thumbnail, almost 100%. And you know, not to say I wouldn't give you props if you were a woman, but I find, especially for men, it's tough to talk about this stuff. And if you're new to the channel, you may not know that this is something I've personally struggled with, binge eating and also bulimia in a prior chapter of my life, prior season. And I also find that many people in fitness have struggled with, you'd probably be hard pressed to find someone who hasn't struggled with binge eating in the fitness realm, even fitness authorities. It's kind of crazy actually to consider that some of the people that are most highly predisposed to have an unhealthy relationship with food are the subset of the population that Gen Pop goes to for advice. I've always toiled with that in my mind. Like, how is this a thing? Yet it is a thing. We're not going to go super deep in that because I don't want this video to be 47,000 hours. So, little anecdotal backstory for me. I first had a binge eating episode when I was 15 years old. I'm 30 years old now. It was literally half of my lifetime ago, which is crazy. Sophomore year of high school, I was just getting into paying attention to body composition, as in I want to have abs. I want to look like I have some muscle. I was visiting, it was a Saturday, I was visiting my girlfriend in the town below me. I hadn't eaten anything all day because I knew enough that calories are a thing, and if I have less calories, I will lower my body fat percentage and I'll be able to see my abs better. I didn't eat all day. I got home at like 5 or 6 p.m., walked into my kitchen in my house, and next thing I knew, I had finished a whole box of Honey Bunches of Oats cereal. And that I had never done that before. That's quite a bit of cereal. I was also like probably 140, 150 pounds, so wasn't the biggest guy ever. And it really took me by surprise and confused me. Like, it was almost like I had blacked out and I had emerged. Like, I can't believe I just had that whole box of cereal. And like, I've been hungry for the last freaking 6 hours. And, you know, I've like basically like undone all of my efforts. And, you know, this is the first time this happened, and this ended up becoming a cycle for me. And this is a cycle, again, and let me preface this. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not someone who, I'm sharing my opinion, and I'll have resources in the description that you can go to. If you're seeking help, also we'll link a book. I've also actually made a video on this specifically like 4 years ago. I'll link that in the description too. I'm not an authority in this space, all right? So a big umbrella thing I want you to consider here is seeking help is a wise thing to do. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means that you're strong. Strong people look for help. I mean that. So with that being said, though, what I discovered and from reading, there's really 6 stages to, what can cause binge eating or bulimia. Little backtrack to finish my story. Binge eating continued through college, towards the end of high school and into college till about the end of college, I started purging. So I started consuming calories and then getting rid of them by vomiting. And this was a slow progression over time. It started with the binge eating, like I said, sophomore year of high school. And that would happen every other week, once or twice a month. And then it increased to once a week. At my peak, I was doing it almost every day. I'd say this is probably college time frame at this point. Got to understand, this is a decade ago. So I'm just like thinking back. And it wasn't always constantly every day for like a year per se. Like I'd go through a phase of a month or 2 months without really having an episode like that at all. But then like something would trigger it, stress, and I'd kind of fall back into that pattern. It's an addiction at the end of the day. This is something I haven't struggled with since I was 22, 23 years old, 21 or 22 years old. So it's been almost a decade. I'm very fortunate to say. There's a mental part of this, and the body's all intertwined, spiritual, mental, physical, but there's the mindset component of this. There's also a physiological component of this. Both come into play. Both are probably equally as important. It's usually stress. It's usually the desire, unhealthy feelings. That would be step one, is a desire to get rid of, or just the experience of stress for whatever reason, or just not favorable emotions. Trouble with your relationship, super stress with work or school, whatever it may be. Step number two would be the desire to cover up those emotions or get rid of those emotions. And you could arguably say that is a healthy thing to, address those emotions, right? We don't want to exist perpetually in a state of just like less than ideal of emotions. Okay. Well, then step three is using food as a chosen mechanism to deal with those emotions. So here's where we're getting into some sketchy territory, right? Food is not a reliable way. That's a big conclusion of this, to deal with stress or any other unfavorable emotions. That's step three. Step four would be feelings of guilt, shame, self-hate, and hopelessness after the disordered behavior. Kamoya. I'm just going to say Kamoya is the person who commented this. That's my guess at how to pronounce your name. Kamoya, you may relate to this. I know I personally relate to step four, is I would feel extremely guilty about what I was doing the whole time. Like, even though I would have this period, it's so bizarre and interesting to me still to this day, how I was able to get into this state consistently, where I would, be operating under a certain frame throughout the day, which is loosely, calorie restricting or really focused on body image. That's a whole other issue in and of itself. And I'd be able to, through willpower, abstain from taking in calories or eating unclean foods or anything that's off my diet, or doing anything that is even a slight hint at not being ideal for my body composition. I'd be able to do that fine, but then there'd be a breaking point via stress, and I could just revert into like an alternate personality almost, and like go down this black hole of like, F it, I'm gonna go off my diet. I can't do this. This is stupid. And crazy rationalizations. This is a telltale, like this is addiction. This can be transferred to any substance, whatever. And you kind of lose control. And I would give in and I would eat all this food. And yes, self-hate and hopelessness was totally a byproduct of that, because I'd emerge out of that kind of blackout, even though I was conscious during it, but just in a full, I don't care about anything mode. And I'd be like, where did my dignity go? Where did my self-respect go for the last hour? What is going on? All these questions, all this stuff. Let's continue. Step 5, renewed self-hatred over weakness. So this is essentially, man, a good portion of my day has just been dedicated to thinking about food, reinforcing an unhealthy relationship with food. This is quite frankly embarrassing. There's such a better use of my time than this. Pardon my French, fuck this thing. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, fuck this thing that I'm struggling with. So confusing, right? And I said this in a prior video that I recorded 4 years ago, and it's true. With a substance like alcohol, and I'm not trying to like dick measure them and say like which one's harder or whatever. It's per individual, but like it's black and white with alcohol, as in you can consume it or not consume it. An alcoholic, don't drink alcohol, period, the end, we're done. With nourishment, with calories, with food, it's not as black and white in that. It's like, just stop eating the food. Okay, you're dead. So it's like, how do we cultivate some proper rules of engagement with food is really the conundrum that I would constantly find myself in. Let's continue and just wrap this cycle up. Step 6, emotionally predisposed to repeat the behavior. And then you cycle back to step 1 whenever it arises. Feelings of unease or dissatisfaction, whether it's the next day, the same day, a month later, whatever. Emotionally, and I don't know the exact, I believe this is from the book that I linked in the description. Emotionally predisposed to repeat the behavior is essentially like you've been keeping it in your conscious awareness, behavior that is repeated. As you repeat it more and more over time, this is my interpretation, you're more likely to repeat that in the future. It becomes slowly more and more part of your identity, how you view yourself, right? Because our identity is just made up of our beliefs and our actions. And then we look at that evidence, our actions over the last month, the last year, the last decade, and that all culminates into our identity and our reasonable view of like who I am. We can't help but rely on the evidence of how we've acted and how we interpret it as it becoming our identity. Super philosophical side tangent right there. But let me get to some answers here. First, understand that this is like a straw man. Using food as a mechanism to deal with stress is like it is literally you not addressing the root issue. You're using food as a coping mechanism / distraction instead of either dealing with the stress or unease head on or choosing a healthier avenue to mitigate and deal with that stress. Some examples of this would be shifting your environment. I'm huge on shifting your environment. If you feel you're stuck in some way or you're looking for a renewed perspective or sense of energy, go for a walk, go run an errand, just go outside and call a friend or just get a breather. Meditating is super helpful. Now, this will feel like almost unbearable heavy lifting, so I completely sympathize with you here. When I would hear these recommendations, instead of using food, like meditate, I'd be like, can you fuck off, please? Like, I'm fucking meditate. But understand that in moments, this is literally an addiction. In the moments where you feel like it's unbearable and there's no way you cannot give into this pattern of yours, whether it's using a substance or using food in an unhealthy way of engagement that you have, it seems just impossible that there will be a time when you no longer have this intense craving or desire for that thing. You can't see it at the time. It requires 120% faith. But I promise you, shifting your environment, going somewhere new, will get rid of that craving. And it sounds crazy, but you literally will not want to use the substance or use food in an unhealthy way. Within 10 to 15 minutes, probably even less of a time, by putting into practice a more healthy practice, meditating, shifting your environment. These are just 2 examples, okay? There's probably many others. Perhaps someone can sound off in the comment section, but something that I found helpful was if I wanted to give into this pattern, I would give myself permission to button 10 minutes. I can have this unhealthy engagement with food, but I'm going to just wait 10 minutes. So it kind of put the ball in my court, and I was able to kind of check myself there where it's like, I can wait 10 minutes to do frickin' anything. Maybe not breathe, but besides that, I can. And by giving yourself permission, like there's nothing wrong with it. You can go ahead and do that, but just wait 10 minutes. I'd find by kind of, that allows me to take my power back. I realize that I don't want to, and I wouldn't do it. I'd say at the end of the day, my friend, so that's the mental side and just an overarching theme, that kind of cycle, the 6 steps. there's also a physiological component to this, physical component that's very real, as in if you're restricting calories too much, you know, I don't care how much willpower you have, you are going to have to eat, and it's going to break down at some point, that willpower. Like, if anyone watching this has been on a severely calorie restricting diet, you probably know what I mean, because it just can't, unless you're willing to get to such an ungodly level of suffering, you're going to have to eat, and at the end of the day, your body demands you to take in calories. You can't just, you know, if your body needs 2,000 calories, you can't just go after day perpetually taking in 500 calories per se, like 25% of what your body needs. Eventually, there's going to be a time that comes where you need to freaking eat some food, man. And that breaking point will come at different times for different people. But I know for me, like, if I was severely calorie depleted during a day, especially being someone who's physically active, burns a lot of calories to begin with, I couldn't even make it. Like, I couldn't even go to bed being super hungry. Like, I would end up making a poor decision and eating very emotionally just by the end of that day. Understand that, like, you can't, and what I'm saying here is you can't just like brush this off your human physiology and say, I'm above this, I can continue on this calorie restricted diet. You literally cannot. It's going to affect you mentally, your energy, your perspective of the world, what you view as important. You're going to start focusing on food way more. Other things are going to seem less exciting. Your relationships will suffer, your work, your school, everything will suffer if you are so adamant on continuing on what is proven with data and science that is super unhealthy for someone, which is this extremely calorie restricted diet. That's really what I find is what gets most people into this type of situation of binge eating and bulimia is you're putting too many constraints on your relationship with food. Perhaps because you have a warped perception of what being lean and having a great body will give you. It will not give you the world. I have faith you guys have the idea, so let me provide a little bit of a conclusion here. Food is not the answer. You have a spotlight on food as being something that will be an avenue to better feelings, and I'm saying that that's not it, okay? There's this kind of analogy that I connect with, and it loosely relates is a guy loses his keys outside. It's dark, it's nighttime, there's a street light that's illuminating a certain part of the sidewalk, and he's only looking where the light is on that sidewalk. Someone comes up and says, like, why are you looking, what are you looking for? This person says, I lost my keys. The person who approached said, where'd you lose them? The person who's looking for their keys under the light says, oh, I lost them near my door over there, which is in the dark. It's like the person says, why aren't you looking over there? And the guy looking into the light says, well, this is where the light is. Okay? Do you kind of see what I'm saying here is like, you're not going to find your keys there, bro. They're not there. That is using food as a means to deal with emotions or, you know, high stress situations. There are more healthy avenues to deal with it. And again, this is an addiction. This is a cycle that's hard to break out of. For me personally, I ended up going and seeing a psychiatrist. I had 2 sessions with him. I ultimately ended up not working with him any longer than I saw him for 2 weeks, 1 session each week. The way he wanted me to kind of move through this, I didn't really connect with it that well. He wanted me to write my feelings about food before, during, and after consuming food. And my mind state at the time is I'm focusing on food and body image stuff way too much. I need to focus on it less. I need to focus on other things completely. So I decided not to kind of go that route. And that was, I think, my junior year of college. And then I was able to really slowly over time put it to bed. Like I said, around age 21, 22. By the end of college, and I haven't had an episode since that. It's been almost a decade. This is it's a serious thing. And even if it's not very serious for you right now, Kamoya, it has a likelihood of getting serious. I'm not trying to place a sentencing on you as in it will, but it very well may. So if to anyone watching who has this predisposed, I guarantee there's people who have a unhealthy relationship with food watching this video, because, you know, this is a fitness channel, and I have already spoken on just the higher correlation of people who focus on fitness with food consumption and body image. Like whatever adverse feelings, like you don't feel like you're enough, you don't feel like you're enough in your relationship, you can't succeed in a career, whatever it may be. This literally has nothing to do with food or your body or what you look like. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. And really sit with that and understand that, like, at the end of the day, what I've come to learn just with getting older, I'm not like have the ultimate wisdom at this point, but as a 30-year-old dude, like the way you look just matters. So it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. What matters is you've got a freaking meat suit. You've got a body that works well. You're able to sit down, stand up, bend over. You're strong. You can carry things. You have energy throughout the day. You're able to move around in the world with relative ease. You can go on a run. You can lift some weight. Like, these are things that are very important, in my opinion. So low on that rung of importance is like the way that you look, honestly, and it just becomes less and less important as you get older. And I don't even think at this point where we are in society that if you're a guy, like, girls don't even find that attractive. A dude that's like super self-obsessed with his image and like getting super jacked and all about, like, what that signals to a girl, at least in my opinion, is like, oh, he's going to put a lot less attention on me. And like, dude, what insecurities are you dealing with that you've got to like focus on the way you look so much? Like, sheesh, what are you sweeping under the rug? Like, you know, it's kind of funny just like that I have a fitness channel and like it's a topic that I cover extensively with many videos, but like the reasons that you are looking to have a ideal body composition matter. The reason why you want to be jacked matters. And it should not come at the expense of your relationship with food. Food is a tool. Here I go saying I'm going to conclude quickly and I just continue. Last thing I'll say is food is a tool. It's used for nourishment. It's not like people who try to just objectify and say it's just for nourishment. I don't believe that fully. Like, there's a big social component. Like, it brings us together. We're social creatures. We go out to dinner with our family. Food is used as a uniting factor with that. It's not just as simple as that. However, it's not going to talk to you or give you feedback about a current challenge you're experiencing with school or work or in a relationship with other or whatever. It's literally an inanimate object. It's food. It's not going to help you. You're going to be still sitting there having carried out an unhealthy relationship with food with an episode, and you're still not going to have any answers for the stressor that's stressing you. And you'll just have piled something on top of it additionally to stress with, which is like, I have a bad cycle of addiction right here, and I am now learning and reinforcing in my mind that it's just not the way to continue. How can I get out of this? And also, I still have this big stressor right here. Food is not the way. And yeah, like, I hope you guys found this helpful. It's serious stuff. And again, just to reiterate, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist. This is just really personal anecdotes and just sharing some highlights that professionals have put out to the general public, which is super awesome. More men need to talk about this stuff. It doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you more of a man, in my opinion. Talk about this stuff that challenges you. Again, huge acknowledgement for commenting that. I would love to see that happen more often. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please like it if you did enjoy it. If you haven't struggled with binge eating or bulimia, but you've made it to this point in the video, I hope this has been an insight or education into what this is like for someone. It's not a joke by any stretch of the imagination. Love you guys. See you in the next video. Peace out.